Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ant Pod. The time has now started and today is episode 10 and I almost feel like this is season 2 of the Ant Pod as we for the first time ever have 4 new hosts, or I guess 3 new hosts. We are a total of 4 new hosts in total. Now we're gonna start by a little introduction to the 3 new hosts, and then we're gonna go into the main topic of this video or podcast, and this topic is the best ant nest in the world, or I get the best ant nest, depending on what we think ourselves. But yeah, I think we should start with a little introduction, and the first new guy we have on the show is Sam from Antex. Hello, Sam.
Hello.
So let's hear a little bit about you, Sam. Who are you, and where are you from? How long have you been keeping ants for?
Okay, so I'm from Wales, surprisingly enough, because I'm from Antantic, so it's quite nice. It's a 10-minute walk to the shop. Makes it very convenient for me. I've been keeping ants for a while now, but it was kind of like an on and off phase. So I think I started when I was 11. Saw a YouTube video, no surprise, the typical story, Ants Canada. And the 10-year-old me was quite excited and wanted to try something. So I bought a Mesobarbarus colony. And me at 10 years old obviously made quite a lot of mistakes and all the rest of it, got a bit disheartened, and I had like no one to kind of fall back on. So you feel like you've done something wrong. So I took a little bit of a break, and then it just so happened that I won, how many years later? A few years later, I won a competition, the Antantic Summer ones. They gave away a free queen. I basically won that competition, got my Eucalinus queen, and it started everything off again. And now I work for an ant shop, so it's a very a strange kind of cycle of what's happened.
Yeah, that's the thing. First of all, if you hear a little bit of background noise from Sam, that's because he's currently working. So yeah, hopefully from next week on and onwards, he won't. But yeah, so you started off with a Herculinus queen. Do you still keep that colony, or
yep?
How did it end?
So she sits quite happily on my shelf at home, and she's one of the few species that I just keep at home now because kind of a sentimental thing behind it. A lot of things I've got a thing that I'll never take home unless it's something really, really special. Because otherwise, as you can imagine, I work with such amazing species. I can come home and I can take everything kind of with me. So now I've made this thing of, right, okay, I'll only take a few things, or things that catch my eye, I'll take home. And the Herculinus, even though she comes under common, I'm keeping her.
So you just steal the ants, or what do you mean take them home?
So it normally works out. So I'll steal a few now and again. Don't tell Rich. No, we work something out. So in the past we've done, because we've got our set hours, and then there's right, 500 extra test tubes need doing. And I go, right, I'll do them. And Rich says, what do you want? And I go, well, we'll exchange that for that. And it kind of works out. It's very much a case of, and I'm lucky as well, I'll never pay kind of full price on anything. But yeah, I'll try and get things for free if I can, of course.
That definitely sounds like you can end up with a lot of colonies. But together with them, Sam, we of course have 2 other new co-hosts. And you may know him as Mr. Dirt Nerd, as he's been formerly known. We now have a new host, and it is Ryan from the YouTube channel Antscapes. Say hello, Ryan.
Hello, everyone. I wish Alex knew the name of my channel, but it's all good.
The thing, there's so many ant names, and now we have Antscapes, so many ants. So although I know you quite a lot, Ryan, because you've been featured on my channel, and we're quite good friends. Tell us a little bit about you, Ryan. How old are you, and when did you start keeping ants?
I'm 28-year-old. I started keeping ants when I was, that was in about October 2020. I got my first Lasius ant colony, and yeah, it was from there really. And then I remember it was just before Christmas time. I saw your video on your Myrmica rubra, and I kind of just thought I've got kind of enough back history with it. I've been keeping aquariums since I was 13, so at the time things weren't as good as the way I are now with certain soils. So I had to do a lot of reading on the different nutrients needed in order to keep aquatic plants, because even then lights were terrible as well. You had LEDs and tier 8s, and then I remember they brought out tier 5s, which were only 30% more efficient, but they were smaller. But anyway, so I've been doing that since I was 13, but that was based mostly around aquariums and aquascaping. And then following your video, that led me to get my first Myrmica colony, which was kind of, for me, the real first colony I got. I still have the other one to this day, but that was about it, really, yeah. And it kind of spiraled from there. Then I started to keep, millipedes, isopods, scorpions, different species, and it kind of led me to create my channel for my own, I guess, history of the tanks I'm keeping, and for my own records as well, more than anything, and kind of went from there, really.
Yeah, so of course we're going to talk about it a lot in a second, but you mainly have dirt setups because you have, like you said, you're scaping a lot, hence also why Antscapes. Yeah, you almost only use naturalistic from aquariums, right?
Yeah, that's correct. It mainly stemmed from as well. I mean, I'll be honest, I wasn't the best with test tubes. I'm really clumsy. I always found it really awkward as well at first when you're taking them out. You're trying to feed a few ants, and then most of the time they're all escaping. Then when you're trying to put them back in, the other ones are escaping again. And but either way, it would always be naturalistic for me. But that was mainly because I felt like the ants would have preferred that. I always knew acrylic nests and wire tongue, etc. They've tested and proven and work, but for me, I kind of wanted to give something and be able to keep something, say, in my kitchen, which is really nice to look at, as opposed to like an acrylic box. So for me, it becomes part of the furniture. But yeah, I know everyone sees it differently. You can just have a hobby room. But yeah, everything I keep is naturalistic. That's from starting queens with just brood to foundation colonies. I keep them in like any tubs, ice cream tubs, Ferrero Rocher tubs at first. Just go for like a traditional tubs and tubes type of style, and then when they get bigger, I normally just set a tank up for them, like a 30 centimeter cube or something, for the forever home until, well, not forever, it'd probably be 2 or 3 years depending on species, until they're big enough to move out of it, really.
Yeah, that's really different to me, because I keep a lot of I don't really have naturalistic setups, but again, more about that in a second. Now our third and last new host, we are of course from Europe, 2 British guys, or Wales, Walish, and a Danish fellow, aka myself. But lastly, we have Casey, and Casey, you are not from Europe. Where are you from, and how old are you, and how long have you been keeping ants for?
I'm 25. We're from the United States, but I'm from the Western United States in Utah. I've been keeping ants for 3 years. I got into it same way everybody else did, just random YouTube surfing. I found Ants Canada. I watched him for like a year, and then I saw a queen ant while I was out jeeping, and I brought it home and started keeping ants.
Nice and simple. So how many colonies do you have now then?
I am up to 8.
Nice.
I started with Tetramorium and Pogonomyrmex barbatus.
And are they still alive today, or because they were the first colonies? Because I know my first colony is not alive anymore.
Actually, yeah, all my first colonies are still alive. My Pogonomyrmex have close to 200 workers, and my Tetramorium have a couple thousand, I think.
Damn, couple of, yeah, that's definitely not bad for your first species, and I think that leads quite well into the next part of the podcast, because today we are talking about the best ant nest in the world almost, or at least what we like. And like I said in episode 9 of the Ant Pod, these podcasts will now be a lot more relaxed and a lot less scripted and scheduled, so it has to be a little bit change my mindset personally, and hence why also you guys, if you want to add something or interrupt and say, wait, no, you're saying something wrong, feel free to do it. And I feel like we need to start with you, Casey, because you are from America, and then and hence why you have a lot of different setups compared to us Europeans. I know I personally have a lot of acrylic setups, a lot of setups from Makushi, but I don't think you have any setups from Makushi at all. What kind of setups do you use?
Everything I have is, oh, sorry, hit my mic. But everything I have is Tar Heel Ants. I mean, I have a full-size hearth, like 20 mini hearths, and a fortress, and that's, yeah, it's good stuff, I think.
Then I must come with the. You say it's good stuff. Is that because it's the only stuff you can get, or is it because it is good stuff?
I personally think it's great stuff. I haven't tried a lot of other things. I tried some Pormore Arts. I used a honey cell to try and found a honey pot, but I got too excited and I bothered it too much, and all my honey pots passed.
Oh.
That's sad.
Yeah, that's the thing with founding queens. You have to keep a lot of respect for them. What about you,
Yeah.
Sam?
So favorite nest in general, or what I currently have, or
Yeah.
so.
Just, what's your thinking?
So, see, this is a difficult one for me because I've seen quite a lot of nests, and even though I haven't tried them all out, it's a case of I know a lot of them work. So a lot of the Wakushi stuff, obviously, I really like, and things like, they just do the job. You've got EA's stuff and all the 3D printed stuff. Is what I'm trying to get at. What I really seem to like, and it's where my passion lies, is kind of that 50-50 between naturalistic, then something that I can kind of see and look into the nest and all the rest of it. My passion really lies in trying to create those setups. So I guess a bit like Ryan, who really likes creating those bioactive setups and looking at where the ants are from and trying to make the right soils for everything like that. I'm sort of the same. I like that balance of, right, okay, I'm going to make a really cool outworld maybe. Then how can I get a nest into there where I can see, so it's maybe a bit of acrylic at the back and all the rest of it. That's where my mind goes instantly. So things like, at the minute I'm looking to do a harp setup of some sort, and the harps naturally will nest in like clay banks and things like that. So I automatically think of how can I make this really cool looking setup where it's a clay bank. If I just flip this around, and I can see all of their chambers at the back, and I've almost like pre-made them. So I don't know how I'm going to do that, or obviously it's a lot more difficult. But that's where my mind instantly goes when I can think of kind of like dream nests and I were to create something.
You can buy red moldable clay, and you can use objects like say for example, I don't know, blue tack.
Right.
You can put blue tack down and then the clay around it, but obviously a lot, or even like kitchen roll tubes or the cardboard. You can like put them down and then use the moldings around of the clay, and obviously get it enough so you can pull the cardboard out still, and then you pull it out and then put your soil on top, and then you'd be able to see in the sides of the clay.
Oh, okay.
Like put mesh
Yeah.
slightly over. Yeah, I've seen it done like that.
There's a video on the
but it
internet. I
wasn't
can't
for
remember.
ants, it was for scorpion.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what they did. They like molded it, but put like different objects into the molding to create the chambers and stuff, and then. But it was for a scorpion anyway. But yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, but I'm guessing the problem with hybrid setups is if you hydrate the outworld, the ants may just start digging, or how will that then work?
Yeah, so I mean, that's what I was going to say. It's hard to make a 50-50 because if you make a naturalistic, I mean, you're talking 90% of the time, in my case, they'll move into the naturalistic. So you'd have to have like the thinnest layer of soil. And if you wanted to make it really look nice, but then you couldn't really do much. You can't create that surface area, you can't create the depth. And it would have to be a very plain looking sort of scape, really. You could probably do a few things to make it look nice. It could be like just an environment, like a desert, or like a knoll or something. But yeah, I don't know. But I prefer naturalistic. I think what Sam means, though, is 50-50 in terms of creating their own chambers. Like, no, have you ever seen that video from, I can't remember who did it, but did Y-Tong? They did it all the way around, apart from one.
I think that's the one I was thinking about.
And then piled up. Yeah, but it was Y-Tong created or carved in and then stuck against the glass. So then the hatch and nest
Ah,
inside.
yeah.
Yeah, but then it was like dry sand, but he kind of watered more like down towards the nests. But they stayed in the tunnels at the back, and he put like red film all the way around the tank.
Yeah, I would like to mention that I love that you said before, Ryan, that you would rather have a naturalistic setup than a test tube setup. Now I'm known to be a bit happy with hydrating, let's say it like that. I just don't at all have. I'm much more to like a simple Venus test tube setup where you just have 3 test tubes in a nest, and then it's just feed the ants. Zero maintenance, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, but you still managed to flood those. No, I'm messing. But
I think I have.
yeah. But no, I get you. Like, I'm using an EA nest at the moment, which is for my Camponotus maculatus, the ones I got from Ancon, or the one I got from Ancon. So I just put a test tube in it. Now, test tube I got the ants in was just slightly too big. So I just put like a tube in and then put a tube over that fit. So it also makes the entrance hole smaller. So I thought that would help keep some humidity in there for them. But they seem to be doing okay. I got them at 2 workers and I'm at 4 workers. Like for me, it's simple enough and it works. But what I find easiest with naturalistic is once you put them in and you leave it, as long as you've got like isopods and springtails, they'll pick away at them whenever they are hungry, because then you know that they're never going to go hungry to the point where it's going to make brood suffer. So it's an easier way for me when I'm doing 120 species in the animal room, and I'm like trying my best to do everything and then doing these. For me, I know they'll just, if they can, they'll just grab a few springtails or they'll get a baby isopod or something, and then they'll be fed. So it's just more. I just find it easier, and if I've got isopods and springtails in it, then I don't have to worry about taking the roaches out and go moldy. And at first you do, for the first month or 2, you have to constantly go in and take any out because it'll get like a cotton mold. But after that, everything gets devoured once the springtails have increased, the ants have then started to increase, and the isopods, it does make a difference. But yeah, it's just easier, really. And then when they're big enough, like the Leishnaperda, I just make a setup for them, and then that's it. Everything's watered in there. I don't keep watering. I just keep constant sugars in, and then I feed them proteins every 3 or 4 days, and every 3 or 4 days I'll just mist it down. It's as easy as that.
I think it actually leads a bit up to my question for Casey, because you said that when you grow them big enough, hence they have a few workers before you put them in the naturalistic setup. I feel like when I'm seeing American ant keepers, I really often see Tar Heel ants. I feel like I don't really see test tube setups. I feel like that is almost being skipped. What do you think of that, Casey?
So with bigger species, it's definitely like you can definitely just pop a queen ant into a mini hearth, and most of the time it works. It is a little big, so it's kind of nerve-wracking, but like usually I wait until I at least have workers in my test tube before I move them into a mini hearth. I think that is a super common mistake here, is that people just pop a queen straight into a mini hearth. It can work, and I've seen it work, and I've had it work for me, but for the most part, I think colonies do better if you let them get some workers at the very least before you put them in a mini hearth.
Yeah, that's the fun thing, because with the thing with the mini hearth is it's a little bit bigger than your usual 3D printed aesthetic nest or whatever. Because I mean, I've always kept the mindset of give them a small nest, then upgrade to a little bit bigger nest, then upgrade to a little bit bigger nest. But I feel like with the Tar Heel ants one, they go quite big from the beginning, at least from what I see.
So pardon my measurements, but so with the mini hearths, I'm guessing they're about they're 4 inches wide by like 1.5 inches in depth. I'll get better with my measurements, I promise you guys. But it's, yeah, with smaller species like Lasius, or in my case Tetramorium, my Tetramorium, I just popped straight into a mini hearth, and she gathered up whatever leftover dust was in the casting and built a case over the little water tower inside. and so they can definitely grow into them. But it's just I forgot where I was going with that. My bad.
Nah, no worries, no worries. Yeah, the thing is, if the thing so you said you had a colony of Tetramarum with a few thousand. I'm guessing you just gave them a new nest, or do you then clean up the old nest, or?
So I have two colonies of Tetramarium actually. I have one that are just in a mini hearth. They're actually the same age as my bigger colony. My big colony is in a mini hearth XL with a taken apart fallen fortress attached to the side of it with like a large outworld attached to that, or foraging area. But yeah, there's workers all over the place. Yeah, and he kind of makes his stuff so they're somewhat like expandable. Like all the mini hearths, you can attach them side by side for as many as you want.
Yeah, the mini hearths are really cool looking, I think, though. The only thing I found is just so expensive.
I'm like 99% sure he's making them in his basement.
Yeah, it's so cool though. They are really cool.
Yeah, I must say I haven't tried them yet, but yeah, they are an iconic nest. That's just like it's the nest you see pretty much in every single American Ankylo's house. I feel like
Yeah,
it is the one to use. But I must say, Ryan, the thing I probably often hear with naturalistic setups is how do you know if you get it? The thing is, I of course have my Singularis tank, which may or may not be dug up within a week or something, because I don't think the colony's alive. But I often I think my tank is quite large for a 5-worker colony or 10-worker. I can't remember. What do you do if you have to upgrade a naturalistic setup? Because of course, with the artificial setup, you just put some light on them or whatever and just move them into a new setup.
Right. Okay. So you can do two things, and I've done it with both, and they've been successful. But I can't imagine the latter, which I'm about to say, would actually be. I don't know, but anyway, what I normally do is Ferrero Rocher tub. I'll just take the lid off, and somewhere at the back of the tank where the depth is, I'll place the tub at the back of the tank and just bury it. Done, and then it's within the scape. I don't go and put plants in that area, but it'll be somewhere normally towards the front of the back, if that makes sense. Like, say, I don't know, 30% to the front, and then 70%. No, about 30% from the back, and then far away from the front, sloping downwards. So that way, I can use smaller plants there, so it doesn't disturb the nest underneath. So I'm not breaking the soil, I'm not compacting what they've already created below. That's kind of the way I do it. Or I won't put moss in that area because you have to really pat moss down. Or I literally get a spoon and I'll just spoon out the soil piece by piece until I reach the main chamber. And then when I get to that stage, I just put the tub in the tank and just tip it.
Okay,
so that into the tank, which is the last one. I've tried it and it's worked, but it's not the preferred method. Or you could just spoon it out and then place it in until they get out of it. But basically, the main one that works the best is scooping the soil out to the point where there's barely anything left, but you haven't disturbed the queen or the brood below, and then placing that in the tank, so then they have to move because the light always gets through. So they'll end up climbing out and just digging a tunnel straight away in the new setup. That's the best method. But the other ones work as well, and the one where you just tip them in, I wouldn't recommend. But I have done it and it's worked. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie.
I will just shoot you down, Ryan. I have a quick question, because the thing with I have had 3 naturalistic setups in my career. I know it's not an artificial versus naturalistic, but it's turning a little bit into that kind of podcast, because I really want to know, how do you see if a colony is doing poorly? There's no real way of telling, is there? And it's the same with antics, Sam.
Yeah.
You always, I always think there's always dead spots. So if they always leave dead normally in the exact same place in naturalistics, always, and they pile it up. With isopods, they'll take it away, but you will see them, and if it starts to increase, and you do see it, then that's when you know something's up. It was like my Scutellaris, they got parasitic mites. The only reason I found out and started to investigate and got my macro lens up was because there was that the dead pile was increasing. Well, because they fight off isopods, the isopods weren't taking them as much as they would in, say, my Myrmicus tank where the Rugonodes aren't really bothered by them. So it was like, you can tell, but even in mine, you tend to see more dead workers along the top of the glass. Anything really. There is signs, and it's the same with watering though. Like, I mean, you've been unfortunate. I say you've been unfortunate, but you keep flooding yourself. But like, for example, for that, all you need to do is put your finger on the soil, push it in slightly, and if there's mud on your finger, then it's wet enough. If finger doesn't get mud on it, it's dry. Like, you start to learn as you do it though. Obviously, it's like anything. I can tell straight away. I could look at soil and know if it's not wet enough or if it needs more water.
You are Mr. You are the Mr. Dirtnet, so yeah.
But yeah, that's the easiest way. Literally, just use your finger. Just put your finger on it. In it. If dirt sticks to your finger, it's all right. If it doesn't, then and it's like crumbles off, you can flake it off, like I don't know, fish flakes or something. Then you know it's not wet enough. You need to give it a good mist.
It's a very scientific way of.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the thing. Like, my dad was the one who got me. That's how he taught me. So that's what I've always done. I know people have different methods, and some people like do stick the finger right in, whereas I just push my finger in at the top, like push it down flat. But yeah, anyway, everyone does it different, I guess. But that's how I do it.
Sam, you of course have both setups at Antex because they have the Saturn's Nest from Wakushi, which is just based around test tubes.
Yeah.
But also the naturalistic setups. Which one do you prefer when you don't make a mix?
Oh, right.
And you have them side by side.
See, this is going to depend on a species. So, if I want to keep a small species, I think I'd prefer them to be in the Saturn because they look so cool, crammed together in all the tubes. So things like, because we've got the Singularis in the natural setup, something as big and as beautiful and something that just looks a lot more, you'd find in the forest or something like that, right? Something like that, watching them walk around in the natural setup, it's so much cooler, I think, than the thought of them being crammed in tubes, and they're probably completely happy, but visually, I don't know, there's something about, I'm looking at them right now, I've just walked over as you remind me that we've got these things. And it's a case of, watching them go over, we've got, I forget the plant, but there's one in there that's really taken off now, and they just completely climb up and stand at the top, kind of like the scene of The Lion King. And yeah, watch them, really impressive. So it depends on the species. If it's something big and, I don't know, something that holds itself a bit better when it walks, like it's a lot more individual as opposed to 10,000 little things everywhere. And I think natural...
Sorry, man, go on.
No, that was a... I don't think there was too much more to say. It really depends on each species and what I want them to go in, I think.
Yeah. No, definitely. I was basically just going to say, like, but if you think back to AntCon, the main colonies that were being looked at were the ones in a naturalistic setup or ones with elements, right? Because
pulling that card.
in my opinion, and this is why I did it. Like, you don't look at it in, an ant colony outside and it's in an acrylic tub. Like, you look at it in nature, right? So if you're creating that, then surely you're doing the best thing you can for them. I understand the work, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not even trying to say acrylic is bad. What I'm trying to say is that, to me, I feel like I'm doing the ants more justice in doing a naturalistic setup. But that's all it is.
I say I tend to.
So that's
agree.
actually
depends. Sorry, carry on.
That's actually kind of why I like the Tar Heel ant stuff, is because the foraging areas have like a little bit of plaster with sand sprinkled on top of it in there, and it looks all right. But like I'm also super about the aesthetics, so like I feel like I can set up my Tar Heel ants setups on like a shelf, and it looks museum quality, if that makes sense. Like I want it to be, I want it to be a display, kind of like having a fish tank out in the living room,
Have you tried a naturalistic, Casey?
Everything I've ever done with dirt dies.
Same.
I actually sent Ryan pictures of a DIY one that I tried to make, and I had a Pogonomyrmex occidentalis in there for about 2 months. I think she was a dud, but I did get her to dig, and then I went out of town for a little while. Like, I went on a camping trip. I had a test tube in the Outworld. Like, I totally thought everything was cool. And I came back, and she was just, like, curled up in the corner. I was like, oh, dang. Well, I tried.
But to be honest, I don't know why that didn't work, because the soil mix you sent me, the way you explained it, I remember thinking at the time, yeah, because that was exactly how I'd pretty much done mine, but it was in a different. I used a few different things, but didn't use some of the things that you used in such quantity as well. I mainly try to add like dry fertilizers, which can blend in with the mix to give it like a weak humus for the plants. But for example, like the cactus in the Scutellaris tank, I use some of it in the mix as well. In that tank, the cactus roots are like probably the deepest ones, and the aloe veras. So I mean, it must have worked. So, but it was mainly
it can always be the queen. It can always just be the queen cocking up and just dying.
Yeah, definitely.
true.
It's been a while. I forgot what I put in there. Just looking at it, I think I used like a little bit of clay, some fine sand, a little bit of coarse sand, and like some pebbles.
Lots as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and a little like a couple of rocks, and I did put a cactus in there, but it's black and tiny and shriveled up, and there's no more juice left in it.
Yeah.
To be honest, like you said, Ryan, at Ancon, the naturalistic setups were like the thing you looked a lot at. And I must say, I think, to be honest, when I looked at the Singularis colony at Ancon, I was so annoyed because it was so fantastic actually seeing them digging. And it really annoyed me because I've had 3 naturalistic setups, and all of them, although in one of them the ants were very happy back before I really did YouTube. I feel like if you make the setup too big and the colony inside is too small or too slow growing, I personally feel you really can lose the connection, and that's why in my case I really like artificial setups, and because I'm lazy, that's why I really like the test tube side, because it's just so simple. But I don't know. I feel that's the dangerous thing about naturalistic, putting a colony in too soon.
No, I would agree. But then you have to think, if you've got a 20 worker Leishnaperda colony, don't make them a 2-foot settle. Make them a 30 centimetre. They're a slow growing species. Why are you putting them in a 2-footer when they won't reach that size for another 3 years, 4 years? You know, like it's about kind of just making sure whatever tank you do set up in a naturalistic, that it kind of fits the colony size. Like, you know, I put a tube in a Ferrero Rocher tub. I wouldn't put a queen with brood in a 4-foot tank. You know, that's just insane. But yeah, I get you. But I think it's just like kind of reining it in. Like, I know with yours, you were like super excited and you started to add crickets and everything, and it's like it was probably a little bit too soon. Because as well, you have to think your plants were still growing in, they were still developing, they were still getting deeper with the roots. They were using all their energy in like the root power, root strength, but then all the crickets and the other animals were eating the petals, which they need for the power to grow deeper roots and better leaves.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's just it is what it is. I've done it with mine. I mean, I can't say anything, but
yeah, I think patience is a big
yeah.
thing for naturalistic setups.
Massively,
Big thing.
Massively.
For the longest time, we thought that the
Exactly.
Singularis here, and we believed in our knowledge, and we were like, right, okay, we've provided everything in theory, they should be doing well. So we honestly thought for a decent period of time, I think it was a month and a bit, that okay, are they slowly dying out? We're not seeing much. And it was, you kind of, you put the food in, you hydrate it, but you don't really look at it because there's not much going on. I think it was one day we came in, and we saw like 8 or 9 of them all digging. And we were like, right, okay, there is activity there. But for the longest time, we thought that it was kind of going downhill, not much was happening. And now, I think it was yesterday I said to Rich, there was 11, 12 in the Outworld just foraging. They weren't even digging, and now they've just done really, really, really well. it's taken that time for them to really
It's-
build
it's
the numbers
always
and
slow
feel
first.
confident in that
Yeah.
kind of setup first. And then it makes you question yourself for a
and
lot
it's
of it.
tunnels. It definitely does. Like, it's the tunnels as well. You have to think that they're just going to dig the tunnels exactly how they want. With acrylic nests, you just give them a pre-made tunnel, which they might not like. You know what's like every single species is probably different with how they build tunnels. Like, we don't know
That's
that.
actually very true. That's
This is the
very
bit that
true.
So,
interests
like,
me as well. Sorry,
with
carry on.
naturalistic, they can do their own. Sorry, no, that was it. That was just that basically they can at least craft their own tunnels that suits that species.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'd like to see.
I find it very. Yeah, I find it very interesting with my Camponotus nicobarensis. They have cork, and as I overwatered the gypsum, the cork got a little bit moist, and they actually started digging in the cork and making their own tunnels in an artificial setup. And that makes me wonder, what if you just made a setup where they can't escape, just made of cork or something, and just let them have like an easy way around, and yet they can construct the setup somehow. The thing is just, if you have a setup with dirt, like a nest with dirt inside, they will just nest under the dirt, so the dirt is up against the glass. But it does look a lot cooler actually seeing the ants work with their environment, and that's something you don't see in artificial nest, of course.
Well, in my Scutellaris, like part of when they escaped, I had to add like double the depth of soil, so I added that on. And what I did is I added 2 like twigs at the back. They're about 5 inches each, and I just put them at the back of the tank, like one on top of the other. And then it was 2 days later. There was just a load of like wood dust all over the floor, like mounded up, and it's going to be on my next video on Sunday. And so in the end, I was like, well, they're nesting in it, so they were straight away. That's why they escaped, because they needed more space, and they started digging into the twigs because that's naturally what they nest in. So then I just got some more dry twigs that are where I got the other ones from, and just put them at the back. And now they're like they're literally nesting inside these twigs that are kind of, you know, just on top of the sand. So it's just giving them like variation as well. If you're like, oh, I don't want to see them in sand, but then you can control that with the species. So I tried like an arid setup. They were always in the drainage. Like as soon as I had twigs, they go into that. I had the log there, they nested in it, but because it wasn't a softwood, they preferred those at the top because it's softwood. So then straight away I'm like, oh well, I've learned something there. I could probably replace that log and put in softwood, but I could never do that until I expand the nest. So the next nest I will for them, the expansion, which is good. I'm just going to drill it into the glass. I just had mainly softwood, and that's it really.
Yeah, that's very interesting. The thing is just with naturalistics, like you say, there's so many things going into it that you can think about, and that's a really big difference compared to setups where you just buy them finished. It's
I actually add a little bit of dirt to the foraging areas in my nests, just so they have something to like move around, not deep enough to dig, but like just enough to like give it a nice look and have them like, you know, stuff for the ants to pick up and move around and
Yeah, well, a
live,
lot
I
of
guess.
species need dirt, sand, and things like that for the cocoons, don't they? So if you have a species that weaves cocoons, then it's going to help them a bunch. So I always think it's good to add a little bit. Like I did a little bit of sand in that little EA thing just for the Camponotus, just to see if it helps, and they've took some in, so it must be helping somewhere, you know.
That's actually a very good point. I got my Herculinus a new setup, and it didn't have any substrate in the outworld, and the setup was just all plain and simple. And they had naked pupae, and the pupae died because their cocooning failed, and they just died. And I just lost 3 workers who had taken months in growing.
It's because of the substrate.
Yeah, they didn't have anything to latch their cocoons onto, or when they were spinning
Yeah.
it. At least that's
Yeah.
my theory.
I mean, I'm not
That's-
knowledgeable enough to know about like each species, but generally I'll just put it in because I don't know. I will always research them, but I do get the odd species that I don't know a massive amount. And while I have them, I'll research them ready to upgrade them. It was kind of like the Scutellaris, to be honest. I just got those because I really liked how they looked. But yeah, I get you. So I kind of again, I lost track of what I was trying to.
This is the challenge
So-
that I face a lot with, especially a lot of the Asian species that come in. So as you know, we keep a lot of our store colonies here, or stock colonies in obviously test tube setups, because it's really practical and a lot of them do really well. When you get that, more advanced stuff in, say we've got some fish hook ants in and things like that, what do they, and they're not going to like being shoved in a test tube. They just don't like it at all. So how can I do that thing of, I can't put them all in natural setup. How can I get them comfortable and maybe put a bit of substrate in there, or really work out, okay, what do they really like? That's where the huge test tubes start coming in, and I kind of have to make a little natural something inside of the tube. So if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. And I must say, before we continue this, we have actually reached the end of the timing. So for those who don't know, we try to time these podcasts from now on, just because so they just don't get completely out of hand and go on forever. So I think we should just take one round of all four, and just to be honest, the thing is, I know we've talked a lot about naturalistic setups on this podcast. I love the thought of them, and I really love seeing the Singularis at Antantics just working their butts off. But I think it's just, I don't know. There's something about artificial. I really like being able to monitor the brood and everything, because when I feed my colonies, I feed them by looking at the brood and then thinking how much protein they would need. But yeah, Sam, do you have any final thoughts regarding today's topic?
Not particularly. I guess the main thing that I've realized as talking to you guys as well is that I'd like to see some sort of artificial, again, either going back to the 50-50, which I know it's hard to do, or as we were talking about later, the bit of the nest chambers. So maybe we could even narrow it down. I know in the UK market there's not too much like it. Is that really making it species, or making a nest for a species in mind, right? So Camponotus wants a certain type of chamber. Maybe there's a nest out there that really looks into how they live and the chamber widths and everything like that. A bit like, I know Ants Canada did something, but some of the nests didn't work exactly how they were planned to. But the same idea is that they were species inspired per nest, if that makes sense.
Actually, I do have something for this. Tar Heel Ants is working on Myrmicos cystis specific nests. He's got one out right now called a lair. I mean, most
they are the honeypot, right?
Yeah, the honeypots. Yeah, that's all I got. My bad.
Oh, no problems.
Oh, that's really cool.
And saying that, Casey too. Oh, yeah. What's up, Ryan?
Sorry, no, I was just going to say I don't have anything against acrylic. I'll keep them. I've kept things in them, like my Lychnoperda. They're in High-Tech Ants Outworld, which I just filled with mud. And that got them to enough workers to put in a tank. Then my that EA, they seem to be working okay. But initially the Scutellaris were in a typical acrylic nest, and they did fine. So, but it's just for me, I prefer it. That's all. I think they are great. But and just space convenient. You can get a lot more acrylic nests than you can tanks in a small space. So I kind of wish I got less tanks and more acrylic nests, but then I'd feel bad for the ants, but that's just how I am.
Yeah, and again, for like 90% of the, okay, maybe not 90%, the species don't really care what nest they're in as long as they are suitable for ants in general. And it when it comes to all, it is a lot down to preferences. I don't know if we lost Casey or not, but Casey, what is your final thoughts regarding today's topic? Okay, maybe we did lose Casey.
Right, no, I'm still here. I had to unclick from the keyboard thing, but yeah, no, my final thoughts. I do like artificial nests, but purely because I'm bad at taking care of a naturalistic nest. Like I kill cactuses. But yeah, no, half and half does sound nice. That would be that's why I put dirt in my foraging areas, but they always seem to stick it to the glass too. So I'm kind of unsure.
Yeah. I think I'm to be honest, I think I'm on the same page. Although the thing for me is I have so many colonies that even just having to clean up sand the thing with having artificial, of course, you need to clean up a lot compared to naturalistics. And when I have dirt in my setups, I'm always a little bit because the roach meat sticks to everything. But to be honest, guys, this first podcast the time have been gone a lot quicker than I firstly expected. We are actually about to end the podcast and go to the last segment, which is this week's Ant news. Now, of course, this podcast is currently recorded around 2 or 3 weeks ahead, just because we can. So, of course, the news won't be relevant. But is there anything you guys have heard about or seen this week that you found interesting?
Well, I don't think so, to be totally honest. I think we were saying before, we talked about it earlier, I enjoyed watching EA's video. And videos that come out in general, it's just, I watch them and it's a relaxed time. But apart from that, I don't think there's anything in particular that's caught my eye.
And I must say, when you say earlier, it's before we started the recording. Yeah. But yeah, we talked about the EA Saturn video with his European Crazy Ants, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the shortest name. But yeah, before we started this recording, I just got invited to a new experiment that, of course, by the time this pod comes out, it will be starting a little bit. Ryan, I think you joined the experiment. Can you explain the experiment?
Yeah, so everyone's getting Manica rubida and comparing and seeing best founding results. So apparently they're really, really difficult to found. So everyone's trying different techniques. I know some people are trying tucking tubes, naturalistic, myself, and your test tube setups. So yeah, it'll be quite interesting to see what different people use and what's effective with that species. But we'll see. I'm quite excited to see it. Really, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and I guess we will finally find out when some. I mean, there will be some queens which will just die potentially off because that's what happens. But I think it'll be good to see which ones actually do really well.
Yeah. If anyone interested listening I think Ant Ramblings has made a Discord server or something for it. If I'm not,
he has, yeah. So and Ant's Ramblings, the one who set the trend, I think, as well. But he's made a Discord server for everyone, sort of in the competition. I believe there's like 10, 11 people so far. So yeah, feel free to join the server. There's a lot of people in there anyway who are all in the community and great guys and gals. So yeah, I would definitely consider joining and taking part in this. Definitely.
I saw a pretty good how-to video on how to build a horizontal nest, I guess, from the Antarium on YouTube. That's about all I got for Ant news.
Oh, have I missed that video?
His channel hasn't grown very big yet.
No, I follow him.
It might be a couple weeks old. I just barely came across it though.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I must say he has made some very nice DIY constructions in the past as well.
Oh,
but
I'll have to find the sky then.
Huh?
To find that channel and Antarium, is it called?
Yeah, the Ant Terrarium.
The
But while Ryan works on that, I think it was time to end this podcast now. Of course, the Antarium. Yeah. I don't know how the ending segment will work now where we are 4 people. Of course, Ryan have a style of ending, and I'm gonna put Casey and Sam on the spot to find out their signature ending right here now, just to see what they come up with. But yeah, except that we had a little bit of small issues with Mr. Sam being at work. Hopefully,
yeah, I apologize.
No, that's how it is. This yeah, it was not.
Next
like
week, there's gonna be no problem.
I'm kidding. But yeah, I think, of course, right here now, I haven't listened to the pod, so I don't know if there's a crazy audio all the way through. But yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the listeners for hearing this entire podcast. Next week, we will hopefully have Ant Hood on the show, and we will have the topic of escaping ants. I know Ant Antics, Sam, you have had some escapees. Ryan have had a lot of escapees. I've had quite a big escape. I don't know about you, Casey. Have you ever had a colony escape?
Oh, my Tetramorium are a nightmare.
Wonderful. So there's a good topic for next week, I can hear. But yeah, let's just end the podcast. I'm gonna drop the ball to Ryan and say, what's your outro format?
As always, guys, peace and love. I'm out.
Oh, he just left.
I can't top that, can I? Anything I say now is going to sound very unprofessional.
He just left the chat, man. He rejoined. Oh yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Any final words for you, Sam, or goodbye?
No, not too much. I'll say goodbye, but yeah, just thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy kind of just the general chat feel we're going for, and yeah, see you next week.
Wonderful. And Casey?
Bye. That's all I got.
That's wonderful. Wonderful.
I also want to say thanks for having us as well, and yeah, I agree with Sam. I look forward to next week.
Yeah, hopefully this will be the regular crew plus one, depending on the episode theme, and if any of the guys are busy, it'll be -1. But generally, I feel like this will be the next host crew. Hopefully for a very long time. But yeah, we will sort out an outro format next week. But with the other three saying bye, I will say my Hollifer bye and say thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast and share it to all of your ant friends. And with that being said, goodbye everybody. Bye!